The 1998 FIA World Rally Championship consisted of 13 rallies, beginning with the wintry conditions of Monaco and then Sweden to test the drivers' skill. The third round took the teams to Africa for the Safari Rally in Kenya. Then it was back to Europe for the Mediterranean rounds in Portugal, Spain, and France. Round 7 saw the crews cross the Atlantic to South America for the Rally Argentina. Greece hosted the next round before the long haul to New Zealand. Then back to Europe, where Finland was the venue. No Rally Indonesia meant Italy, and the San Remo Rally was next. Australia hosted the penultimate round, and then to Britain for the traditional season finale. Mitsubishi were back, attempting to win their first manufacturer's title. Subaru were chasing their 4th consecutive manufacturer's title this year. After testing and development work on several of last year's rallies, Toyota had high hopes for their Corolla World Rally car, which was still to win its first rally.
I think the car has a very good potential.
The Ford Escort ended its last competitive year before it's replaced by the Focus. Veteran Juha Kankkunen and co-driver Juha Repo led their assault. On the Monte Carlo Rally, more than any other, tyre choice is critical. Studded tyres, wets and intermediates all feature, sometimes on the same stage.
30 left backs, 50, K right minus long.
When a stage starts in one valley, heads over the mountain and then ends in another valley, conditions can change several times. If we ride with Richard Burns on one stage, it starts with patchy ice over tarmac, moves to full covering of snow, and then back to icy tarmac again. All this in just a few miles. Leg 1's 6 stages took the crews from Monte Carlo through the mountains to the town of Gap. Oriol was fastest on stage 1, but with drivers having to choose one type of tyre for 2 stages, he found himself on the wrong tyres for the second stage.
A bad choice of tyre, you know, you have a wrong information before the start of those 2 stages.
Piero Liatti won in Monte Carlo last year. He and co-driver Fabrizio Pons moved into the lead after Oriol's problems, whilst Colin McRae and Nicky Grist were determined not to repeat their retirement of last year. Their only drama was a high-speed spin on stage 4. Tommy Mäkinen, driving the Mitsubishi, was suffering from a heavy cold and started the leg cautiously, while teammate Richard Burns, contesting every round this year, was 1 place ahead in 4th after stage 2. Carlos Sainz is back with Toyota, and he set the fastest time on stage 2 to move into 2nd place. Juha Kankkunen led Ford's assault on the championship this year, but had a frustrating start to the season, suffering a small problem on the first stage.
Right and fast left sumppuun. Oi vittu, se oli jäässä. And flat right and flat left.
You can see, and then bend the wheel also out, and I had to do the next stage with the wheel open, so lost a bit of time there as well.
Bruno Thierry drove the second Escort this year and made a cautious start. Tommy Mäkinen had a good afternoon, clocking up fastest times on stages 3, 4 and 5, moving himself into the lead ahead of the consistent Carlos Sainz, who retained 2nd place. As night fell, icy conditions began to cause problems. That collision cost Oriol his place in the top 10.
We have understeering in the village Barceloneta. It's quite a little ice. And the car understeering, and we hit a wall with the left.
The Monte Carlo Rally isn't one of Colin McRae's favourites, and he ended the day in 5th place. Enjoying his first rally in the Principality, Burns ended the day in 4th, although he'd found out how difficult the going could get.
50, slippy maybe, K left plus.
Piero Liatti led the Subaru Challenge to end the day in 3rd. Carlos Sainz marked his return to Toyota with a strong 2nd place, although he too experienced problems on the final stage.
Frenando, hielo, izquierda calenta, se abre, ay, 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 dale, dale.
Well, it's a pity the time we lost, but in any case, I think Tommy was driving faster.
You think you can catch him tomorrow?
I think it's going to be very difficult.
Mäkinen threw caution to the wind on that final stage, ending the day over a minute ahead. Day 2 and 7 icy stages would take the cars back to Monte Carlo over the mountains. Leader Tommi Mäkinen would soon find out just how treacherous the conditions were.
Oikeari +3, helppo vasen 2.
Carlos Sainz was now the new leader. An inspired tyre choice on that first stage saw the Spaniard and his co-driver Luis Moya take around 6 seconds per kilometre off Burns, Liati and McRae. Although on stage 8, Sisteron, he did have one slight problem. Känkkönen shared Sainz's tyre choice, moving him from 6th to 2nd in just one stage. On Sisteron, he set the fastest time to close the gap on Carlos. Sisteron played a key role in Piero Liati's victory in 1997, but this year it was very different. This role cost him 30 seconds. Teammate McRae also paid the price for running wider tyres. Nightfall. Bruno Thierry would finish the day in 6th place. After his earlier accident, Liati was happy to end the day in 5th place, whilst his teammate Colin McRae finished leg 2 in 4th. Burns and Robert Reid were 3rd, delighted to be ahead of such experienced company.
Slight right and slight left, 70 slow, flat right in, 50 brake, easy left plus 50, medium left, long.
The Ford Escort of Juha Känkkönen and Juha Repo returned to Monaco in 2nd place, but the Toyota Corolla of Carlos Sainz still led. Day 3 saw the drivers compete over 5 stages in the mountains close to Monte Carlo. It was an early start for Sainz, who began leg 3 with a 55-second lead. But it was Bruno Thierry's Ford which set the early pace, battling with the Mitsubishi of Richard Burns. In the early light of dawn, though, the icy conditions caught out Colin McRae in the Subaru.
70.
Joining in this little battle was Piero Liati, but he finished 4th after teammate McRae beat him over the last 2 stages.
The big battle was for 3rd, and it was with my own teammate Piero. Obviously Richard was quite close as well, and Bruno, but I knew it was going to be Piero or me that was going to take 3rd place.
55 seconds was a lot to make up, but that didn't stop Känkkönen trying.
Fast left and keep right over 70 to long K left and bad right tightens hard.
But it wasn't enough. Sainz could afford to cruise the last pair of stages. This he did, giving Toyota its first victory in the new car. First champagne of the year for Sainz and Moya. Confirmation of the first result of the 1998 season. Victory going to Sainz and Toyota, with Känkkönen, McRae, Liati, Burns and Thierry completing the top 6. With 10 points for first place, Carlos Sainz had a 4-point lead over Känkkönen going into the next round, while Toyota took an early lead in the Manufacturers Series, with Ford and Subaru joint second. The scenery gives away the location of round 2, the international Swedish rally. Leg 1's 8 stages looped around to the north of the host city, Karlstad. Toyota nominated local hero Thomas Rodström to score manufacturers' points for this event. The Swede's day started well, and he led the rally after the first 2 stages. Richard Burns was tackling the rally for the first time and made a good start, but was a little too confident on stage 2.
Fast right plus long. Can't see anything.
The soft snow on the edge of the road trapped the Mitsubishi, losing him 9 minutes.
Just went a bit wide on the exit of one corner, and the snow just dragged me in, and we ended up like in a ditch.
Burns' teammate Tommi Mäkinen passed the stranded Charisma on his way to second after the first 2 stages. The Finn needed to do as well as possible on the event after failing to finish in Monte Carlo. Carlos Sainz's rally got off to a good start, quickest on the first stage and maintaining a top 3 position after the second.
Oriol had a frustrating first day when electrical problems cost him 20 seconds. Sweden's one of Colin McRae's favourite events, and although confident, he couldn't keep pace with the leaders, struggling for grip in 5th place.
30, slow 4 left, tightens maybe, and 4 right, minus opens. 100, 6 left over crest.
Last year's winner, Kenneth Eriksson, was on his last event for the Subaru team, but he too was struggling. Surprise of the day, Marcus Gronholm took the old Toyota Celica to 4th place. Ford's Juha Kankinen made a steady start in the Escort, while his teammate Thierry had problems when exhaust fumes leaked into his car stages. Problems for Rovanperä, who gave the Seat 12th place on its debut, but the unfortunate Gomez was less lucky. He retired 3 stages from the end. Toyota Team Sweden driver Thomas Rodström scored his first point of the season, finishing in 6th place overall. Britain's Richard Burns was happy with 5th place at his first attempt at this notoriously difficult rally. Didier Oriol overcame that last stage drama to bring the Corolla home in 4th place. Juha Kankinen, meanwhile, launched a determined attack on the final leg, but finished 3rd.
And easy left and fast right opens to keep right over jump, 70, long bad left.
2nd place went to Carlos Sainz. The rally victory went to Tommi Mäkinen.
Ja nyppy täys. Oikea täys. Ja helppo vasen miinus. Yli 100. Nyppy täys 100. Nyppy täys.
The Finn established a new record by winning the event for a 5th consecutive time. It certainly helped Tommy's championship fight. In the end, Mäkinen won by over 35 seconds from Sainz, who was just 10 seconds ahead of Kankinen. Oriol, Burns and Rodström completed the top 6. Sainz now led the Drivers' Championship by 9 points, with Mäkinen and McRae sharing 2nd place. In the Manufacturers' Series, Toyota had an 11-point lead over Mitsubishi. The Rally San Remo was the 3rd and final all-asphalt rally of the year, and despite the sunshine over northern Italy, the event needs to be treated with respect. Sainz had an embarrassing start when he stalled off the start ramp. Leg 1 consisted of 8 stages in the mountains north of the host town, and with the locals out to support their Italian stars, Liati didn't disappoint, posting the fastest time on stage 1. Mäkinen, though, was 2nd quickest on that stage and fastest on the next to take an early lead.
Tiukka serpo oikein. Huomio lyhyt oikein, eri tosi kapea.
Sainz was also in the chase, and on stage 5 he moved up to 3rd. But fellow championship contender Colin McRae had problems.
4 right plus, into slow 3 right, tightens maybe. Is it inflating? Slowly. And 6 left.
This spectacular puncture dropped McRae down the leaderboard, and the Scotsman would finish the day in 9th place. Didier Oriols won the event 3 times and was up to 4th place early on. Bruno Thierry is a tarmac specialist. He and Stéphane Prévost was 6th.
50. Épingle droite 40 tard. Sur épingle gauche 40.
Kankinen, on the other hand, isn't happy on asphalt and was outside the top 10. So too was Richard Burns, tackling the event for the first time. Peugeot were dominating Formula 2. Francois Delacour was 5th overall at the end of the day, while Gilles Panizzi was 8th. Citroën were also doing well, Philippe Bugalski in 7th. San Remo was the first all-asphalt rally for Seat's new World Rally car, and they were having early problems. Harry Rovanperä was clearly going no further. Warning other drivers of the hazard, the Finn was unhappy to be the rally's first major retirement. Sainz dropped from 3rd to 4th after choosing the wrong tyres, whilst his teammate Oriol moved ahead of him to end the leg in 3rd place.
gauche à fond, sur droite à fond, sur gauche à fond, rail, frein, sur attention droite, 5 pieds d'attention. 5 pieds d'attention.
Liati'd been fastest on 3 of the day's stages and was second. He'd have to catch the rally leader Tommi Mäkinen, who'd also been fastest on 3 of the day's stages.
It's been quite a good day, no problems so far, and I've been just my concentration as high as possible.
Leg 2 would consist of 10 stages, well to the east of the host town and very different in character to those of Leg 1. Mäkinen lost 2 seconds to Liati on stage 9, but the Italian would soon fall further behind.
E destra 5, e per destra e sinistra 2 più.
Cazzo, dov'era la...
But Liati's waywardness didn't slow him too much, and he stayed second behind Mäkinen. McRae and Grist desperately needed to do well, but their day started badly.
2 right tightens. 50. 2 left minus tightens.
The narrow roads, combined with the unforgiving rock face, conspired to end Oriol's challenge for a 4th win.
5 attention, gauche à droite, 5 attention, 5 attention. Sur gauche à fond. Gauche à fond. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a à l'intérieur? Je sais rien.
Kankinen was slower than his teammate, but worse was to follow.
To fast left, tightens to long medium left. Caution, keep right over 40. Okay, left, keep in.
After his cautious start to the rally, Burns moved up a gear and was fastest on stage 9 and second quickest on 10 and 11 to move up to 5th. Sainz was now coming under pressure from McRae, and the Spaniard had a couple of problems. Always at his most dangerous when fighting back, McRae snatched 3rd place on the day's penultimate stage despite suffering a puncture, whilst his teammate Piero Liati completed the day 28 seconds behind the rally leader. Tommi Mäkinen, quickest on the last 3 stages of the day, was first overnight, and with a chance to rest, the drivers could reflect on the day's action. Like the opening day, Leg 3 would be fought out in the hills above San Remo. 6 stages over twisty, demanding tarmac, with some stunning scenery. Richard Burns had electrical problems on the first stage.
90 right minus, long.
We couldn't solve it before the stage, and during the first one, the car stopped like 4 or 5 times, and we lost 2 minutes.
As a result, Bruno Thierry's Ford Escort inherited 5th, although he couldn't hold on to the position, losing it to Panizzi in the Peugeot 306 after the Frenchman was quickest on 4 of the day's stages. Toyota driver Carlos Sainz was on the attack, chasing the Subaru of Colin McRae all day, and it was working. The Scotsman was losing time to the Spaniard.
It's just not flowing. Nothing really wrong. We're going to change some settings in the car just a bit, but just really can't get in the groove.
On the rally's final stage, Carlos gave it everything, and he was quick, making for tense times in the Subaru service area. Colin couldn't afford to be more than 3 seconds slower.
6 left, into right and 1 left tightens.
McRae was 1.4 seconds slower than Sainz, but it was enough to secure 3rd place. There was still the first place battle to resolve, but Liati, starting the last stage 20 seconds behind, settled for 2nd, which left Tommi Mäkinen to take his and Mitsubishi's first win on the San Remo rally. His bid for the championship resurrected, Tommi Mäkinen had a lot to celebrate. Confirmation of the result after an amazing final day. This was only Mäkinen's 2nd victory on an all-tarmac rally, and it couldn't have come at a better time for the Finn. Sainz still led the Drivers' Series, but the gap was now down to 2 points, and McRae was still in with a chance. In the Manufacturers' Championship, Mitsubishi closed to within 4 points of Toyota. The 12th round of the FIA World Rally Championship took the crews to Australia.
into 6 left, 50.
Apart from 2 super specials at Langley Park, Leg 1 stages were all run in the forestry plantations east of Perth. Fastest on stage 3 moved Richard Burns into the rally lead.
80 left max, 60 flat right plus and right max, 150.
Fifth after stage 2, Didier Auriol was second after the third stage. Teammate Carlos Sainz, the early leader, was now down to third. Winner of the opening super special stage, McCrae suffered suspension problems.